What is going on, Bucs fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today we are going to be previewing the Buccaneers versus Chicago Bears Week 2 matchup live from Raymond James Stadium, the home opener for the Buccaneers. Going to be welcoming in the Chicago Bears, Justin Fields, and the Chicago Bears. The Buccaneers are 1-0 following a pretty impressive win over the Minnesota Vikings by a score of 20-17. While the Bears had a pretty disappointing week 1 loss to the Green Bay Packers, 38-20, and there's a lot of questions surrounding the Bears right now, and there's a lot of heat around the Bears, the local Bears media and national media alike. So obviously, both teams want to get a win. The Bears are going to be desperate to try and get that bad taste out of their mouth, while the Buccaneers are going to be looking to again continue to prove the doubters wrong. Right? There's not many people that thought the Bucs would be 1-0 at this point. I know there's some. I know in the comment section will say, "Oh, I did. I get it." Like, I know there's always going to be those, but if you look at the national consensus, the consensus was that the Vikings were going to beat the Buccaneers. Like, that's just what it was. Not many people expected the Bucs to be 1-0 at this point. I think a lot of people were a lot higher on the Bears this coming season than they were the Buccaneers. I know personally, I took the Bears under 7.5 wins on DraftKings. So if you want to go back and look at betting the Bucs for this week's matchup, it's available on the channel now. You can look at some props that I chose, but I did take Bears under 7.5 wins at plus money, by the way. So, but without further ado, let's get right into this game because I do think there's a few interesting things to look at. First, we're going to talk about Tampa Bay secondary. Christian Izien popped up on the injury report with a concussion, was in concussion protocol, working his way back. I think he's going to play. Kalijah Kancey not practicing, probably not going to play. Carlton Davis not playing after not practicing for a long time with the toe injury. Really unfortunate, especially after just one game. But now DJ Moore or Darnell Mooney come to Tampa, and DJ Moore only had 2 targets, 2 in that game last week. This is the DJ Moore that the Bears traded the number 1 overall pick and moved back to 9 of the Panthers to get DJ Moore. So I think they want to get DJ Moore involved a lot more in their offense. And I just think it's going to be a pretty big focal point for them. DJ Moore, 2 catches for 25 yards. The other side with Darnell Mooney had a pretty nice day against the Packers, 4 catches, 53 yards, and a touchdown. I think the Buccaneers need to keep an eye on him, especially if a guy like Zion McCollum is matched up against Darnell Mooney. Could create some issues for the Buccaneers defense if McCollum isn't up to the challenge. So hopefully Zion McCollum can step in if that is who's filling in. Hopefully he can step in, play well, and be able to contain Darnell Mooney. But speaking of contain, I think the biggest thing is how you're going to contain Justin Fields on defense. All right, Justin Fields was 24-37, passing 216 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And he also had a fumble loss. But on the ground, he was the Bears' leading rusher by a wide margin. He had 9 carries for 59 yards. The next Bears guy was Khalil Herbert with 9 carries for 27 yards. So really tells you that the Bears struggled to run the ball. I know they were down for a lot of the game, but they struggled to run the ball. But Fields was Fields. And this is what Justin Fields is really good at. So I think the Buccaneers need to find a way to contain Justin Fields. In the players to watch video, which you can also find on this channel here, I listed Devin White as my X factor. I think Devin White at linebacker there with his speed, his sideline to sideline speed is the X factor to be able to contain Justin Fields and keep him passing the football. He threw the ball 37 times. To me, that's a recipe for success against Justin Fields. You don't want him throwing the ball less than 30 times and being able to run the ball, dictate clock, dictate where the offense wants to be on third downs, getting to third and shorts. You don't want to do that. I think that's playing the Fields' strength. You want to force him to be uncomfortable. And I think Devin White potentially like spying, having him be the spy on Justin Fields, I think could work out tremendously well. Devin White and Levante David both had really good games last weekend in Minnesota. So hopefully they're able to replicate those games that they had and be able to shut down Fields. So he's honestly, Fields, like, I liked him coming out of college. He hasn't impressed as much throwing the football. Like, when you force him to throw the ball, bad things can happen for the Bears offense. So I think the Buccaneers definitely need to find a way to force him to hold on to that ball and not just tuck it and run. Because I think if he's doing that, he's going to start to get comfortable, going to put the Bears offense in a lot of good positions as well. Moving on to the Buccaneers offense, and this is something where I think it's going to take a few weeks. The Bucs offense against Minnesota, they got the job done, right? Like I think they weren't spectacular the first half, especially. I mean, that the only thing that was good about the first half was the drive right before the first half ended. I mean, you take that out, and it was a miserable first half for the Buccaneers on offense. The only reason they got 3 points was because it was set up by a defensive turnover by Anton Winfield Jr. So the Bucs offense really struggled, and I kind of expected it. Look, Dave Canales, first year play caller in the NFL, installing his scheme. Baker Mayfield trying to learn that scheme. Baker Mayfield's not like the greatest quarterback in the world either. It's not like he's going to snap your fingers and it's going to be all fine and dandy, but I do think that it was expected to be a little sluggish, I think, and that's okay. And that's okay, but I would like to see a little bit more progress this week. And I think Bucs fans should expect more progress this week. It's another week in the offense. You're at home. You won't have to deal with the crowd noise as much. You're in a familiar element. And I think you're facing an inferior team. Like you're facing a team that I think is, I know the Minnesota Vikings are 0-2, but you're facing a team I think is worse than the Minnesota Vikings, and I think you're truly better than. So hopefully the Buccaneers can take advantage of some of that. As for the Bears secondary, they also have an injury. Kyler Gordon is out for this game. So Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, hopefully these guys can get big games. Really am hoping that these guys can get big games. Mike Evans, of course, found the end zone in week 1, had a few drops, but he did find the end zone that really kickstarted the offense. And Chris Godwin, I mean, that catch at the end to ice the game, fantastic catch there for Godwin. So I think you're looking at those two as real, options to get this offense going. Mike Evans had 6 catches for 66 yards. Chris Godwin had 5 catches for 51 yards. So I think both them guys, I think they want to get them more involved than they even were. So I would expect the Buccaneers to feed them, especially with the Bears' little banged up secondary there. As for the run game, look, Aaron Jones did a lot of damage to this Bears defense last week for the Packers. And I think Rachaad White could be in for a big day. I do. He had a disappointing day, I would say. 17 carries, 39 yards, and had 2 catches for 10 yards. Not quite, I think, what fans were expecting. I think the Buccaneers want to get him more involved, especially in the pass game. I think it's important to get Rachaad White involved in that passing game and get him working with that. And I just think it's a perfect week to do so. The Bears, it's like I said, I know I'm using only one example of Aaron Jones, but I think it's a fair example. Rachaad White, I think, has the ability to not maybe do what Aaron Jones did. I think Aaron Jones had a great day, had a 51-yard receiving touchdown, was a great play. But I do think Rachaad White can be a lot better than he was last week, and I think it would be huge for the Buccaneers offense if they could find that balance, because Baker Mayfield threw the ball 34 times. I think in an ideal world, you'd like to keep that down under 30, I think. And if you keep that down under 30, that means you're efficient, you're running the ball well, and I think it makes the offense click better, probably, especially the Dave Canales offense, which we know is going to want to rely on play action more, is going to want to rely on the bootlegs more. I think a solid run game will matter. And also, like I said, getting Rachaad White involved in the pass game, as on betting the Bucs, I took the over 17.5 receiving yards. So, for Rachaad White in this game. So, like I said, be sure to check out Betting the Bucs as well. But lastly, we'll talk about Baker Mayfield before I get a prediction out. Baker Mayfield popped up on the injury report this week with a shoulder injury, was a full participant in practice, but never good to see, especially when he had shoulder issues in Cleveland. So after just 1 week, hopefully it's nothing that bothers him. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on him. But last week, 21 of 34, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And obviously he made 8 carries, 11 yards, a big 11 yards, very, very, very critical 11 yards, especially that last one on the 3rd and 2. But the big thing for me, though, is 0 turnovers, no turnovers. And I think that's huge. And that's something that if can continue over this week and the Buccaneers defense can force a turnover or 2, I think the Buccaneers will be in good shape to win this game. That's been the issue, though, with Mayfield. It's been that consistency. Can he consistently do it from week to week? History has shown he probably can't. So that's why I'm very curious to see if this situation in Tampa Bay is this truly different for Baker Mayfield. I know the doubters are probably going to say, no, it's not. We'll see. We'll see. And then the guys that believe in Mayfield will say, yeah, sure. And I think you're finally going to see, is this truly different? I think Baker Mayfield, another week in the offense. Hopefully his shoulder's good to go. I think it's a good opportunity for him to pick up sort of where he left off in that second half. He was pretty good in that second half. First half, ugly. Second half was pretty good. So with that being said, let me leave you guys with a score prediction here. It's going to be a hot one on Sunday. Like I said, in front of Raymond James Stadium, in front of the Tampa Bay crowd. I think the Buccaneers are just a better team. I do think the Bears are going to be aggressive. I think they're going to play a lot better than they did last week. I think the Buccaneers are going to have to be ready. I don't think it's going to be a gimme game by any means, but I do have the Buccaneers taking this one by a low-scoring affair, 17-14. I think it's going to be like an old school NFC Central game. So I do have the Buccaneers taking this game 17-14, improving to 2-0. Dropping the Bears to 0-2, and it would be a huge momentum boost heading into a very critical stretch with two tough games versus Philly and then at New Orleans for the Buccaneers. So let me know what you guys think. Drop your predictions down in the comment section below. What matchups are you looking to see in this game as well? Curious to hear your thoughts on the upcoming game. But goodbye for now. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go Bucs.